This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody. Just want to thank everybody for joining us this morning for the second session of our Midstates Postal webinar series and talking more about what's in store for 2020. What does the Post Office have on a proposal for rate increases for next year, as well as what are we looking at as far as promotional opportunities, as far as discounts that are available next year. Joining me today for the presentation, we have Michelle Zaliski. Michelle is the Vice President of Postal Affairs at ALG Worldwide. She's been in the printing and mailing industry for over 20 years, I would say closer to 25, but that means she would have had started in the industry when she was 5. So, but
I like
Michelle,
it.
thank you for being here to help us today. Talk a little bit about the proposals. She'll focus kind of on how does the post office go about setting the increase and what do they look at and when making their decisions across all classes of mail. And then also we have Eric Keski. He's our Business Alliance Specialist. Eric has over 20 years with the post office and has held various roles throughout his career, most recently as a Business Alliance Specialist. And Eric's kind of responsible for helping us stay on top of what we need to know as far as what's going on within the industry. Also
Morning.
in the room today, I have Klein is with me, and if you are a current Midstates customer, you've dealt with Tracy over the years. She has 25 plus years of experience in dealing with the post office and changes that have occurred throughout the year, and she's done a good job of. She started the mailing department here. She's built a good foundation, a good team to help assist our customers navigate through any changes that occur throughout the post office. Just a few general housekeeping items to touch on. Everybody's lines have been muted, so we ask that you keep your lines on mute. And if you would happen to have a question throughout the webinar today, please use the chat box that's located on your screen and address your question to the organizer. And then we'll address all those questions at the end of our webinar and presentation today. And if for some reason, if we get a little bit too windy today and if we don't have enough time to address all of the questions, we'll kind of divide it amongst us here on the panel, and then we will get back to you within 48 hours with questions that we haven't been able to answer. And like the last session, this is being recorded. It will be available on our website by the end of this week. So if you have questions after the fact or want to refer somebody to it, that will be available as well. So we'll get started, and we'll talk a little bit about the proposed price changes coming up in 2020, along with the promotions that they're offering for next year, which are similar to this year and with some changes. And then we'll finish with talking a little bit about how you can take advantage of what we call co-services to save some money or take advantage of some other discounts that the post office offers. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michelle to talk about the proposed 2020 rate changes.
All right. Thanks, Eric, and good morning, everyone. So as Eric mentioned, and if you want to flip over to the first slide, the Postal Service currently cannot increase rates above the CPI cap. So I wanted to add this slide because, as you can see, they typically go with the July CPI cap, and that's at 1.9% for this year. So that means that the average increase for any given class of mail cannot exceed CPI of 1.9, although we'll walk through some details, and within each rate cell, you may see some increases above 1.9 or increases lower than 1.9, but the average can't exceed 1.9. And just to give everyone a comparison, the last rate case, the cap that was used, which you'll see towards the July-September increase on the earlier part of the slide, was 2.4% was the CPI. So this slide I like to put in here because it gives a good time frame of when we expect to hear the postal regulatory decision on the rate case filing. So how the process works is the Postal Service gets the CPI. They filed the rate case with the PRC, and then the PRC has about 34 days per their commitment to come back with a decision. And what that decision could mean is they accept the rates with no changes, they come back to the Postal Service and they accept some of the rates, and they ask for clarification or changes to other rates. If I had a crystal ball, I would suspect that they are going to just approve the rate case as is, and we hope to hear on that on November 12th. And then the price change will go into effect January 26th, 2020. So first class mail is going up 1.9% overall. You'll see that the average letters that you just get a stamp for in mail, that rate is not changing. And the rate is not changing because the Postal Service did a very large rate increase on that, like a single piece stamp prices last year. So that's why they did not put in for any additional increase this year. What I also found interesting as part of the first class volume is 60% of the Postal Service's first class volume falls under that pre-sorted letters and cards, that 2% change that you see here. That's most of their volume. So marketing mail. So this is one of the big things that we watch. Obviously, this is where a lot of the volume falls into, Postal Service marketing mail. So you'll see the 1.9 CPI overall increase, but as you go down to the different products, you will notice that flats and parcels are listed at 3.9%. So I had mentioned that the post office cannot raise rates over the CPI cap unless there's a certain caveat. So the Postal Service cannot provide discounted pricing above 100% of pass-through. And what that means is that the Postal Service can give discounts to mailers and mail owners if you do some work for them. But that work can't exceed 100%. So there are some mail classes or products that the PRC deems underwater for the Postal Service, right? So they're losing money. So the PRC came to the Postal Service and required that they raise rates 2% above the CPI cap for certain categories of flats and for parcels. So that's why you'll see flats is going up 3.9%. But what's interesting, and we'll get into this as we start looking at the rate cells, there are ways you can mitigate that 3.9. So the 3.9% increase is only on specific sortation levels of flats. So this kind of gets into that detail that I was mentioning. So this is marketing mail, commercial origin prices. So what this slide shows you is the current price for a specific type. So the first one being 5-digit letters entered at origin, the current price, the new price, and then the percentage of change. So this is a good snapshot to show you while the CPI cap is 1.9%, there are different varying rates within that. So this first one only being 1.7. And then the second one of flats being above the CPI cap, this is part of that additional 2% that the PRC mandated the Postal Service raise rates. So when I had mentioned, and then you'll see here carrier route. So within a flats category, you have your 5-digit flat, and then you have your carrier route. Carrier route being the best rate of postage. So you'll notice that carrier route flats entered at origin, that percentage of change is under 1%. So what does that mean? It means that if you're a flats, marketing mail flats customer, that you can participate in services like co-mail that will help reduce that percentage of increase. So the Postal Service added the 2% on the lower end of the pre-sort categories, right? They didn't touch carrier route. So the goal of co-mail is to move pieces from 5-digit and 3-digit to a carrier route category. So in our modeling, and I put some examples in here, you can see that the more that's put into co-mail from non-co-mail, you can help mitigate some of that 3.9% price increase. And when we ran some samples, a 25,000 piece mailing was at 1.9% when it participated in co-mail. There are some that are a little bit higher than the 1.9, 50,000 piece mailing at 2.6%, and then a 225,000 piece mailing at 2.3%. But this indicates that participating in a co-production process, and Eric's going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this presentation, you can help mitigate some of that price increase. So this is then the same view, but just for nonprofit prices. In my mind, and I have said to the Postal Service, we think they should take nonprofit prices and just do a percentage off of profit prices. They don't do that for marketing mail. They do that for periodicals. So that's why we bring this up, because what's interesting is some of the rate variation for nonprofit prices compared to profit prices. One of the things when we were doing the modeling on the rate change is that we thought it was interesting that all of your origin nonprofit letter rates stayed the same, with one exception for some mixed AABC rates. And then at the bottom, we provide the same analysis for nonprofit average rate increases when participating in co-mail. And you'll notice that that percentage of increase is higher for nonprofit than it is for profit. So this slide walks through dropship discounts and rates. So as I had mentioned with flat prices, the PRC had remanded to the Postal Service that they raise rates for certain levels of flats above CPI. Another thing that has been happening with the rates are dropship discounts. So a few years ago, the PRC had realized that the dropship discounts for letter mail was about 176%. And the Postal Service has to be at 100% pass-through, right? So if mail is taken from a plant to an SDF, that has to equal no more than 100% of pass-through, right? What the Postal Service would have paid had they had to deal with the transportation. So in order to get to 100%, the PRC and the Postal Service had agreed that they would start reducing the dropship discounts by 10% over the course of, I think, 4 or 5 years. Because they knew if they try and reduce dropship discounts by 70% within 1 year, it would cause rate shock, right? And the goal is not to take away volume from the system, but just to get that pass-through back to 100%. So you'll see again with this rate case, very similar to the last few years, dropship discounts were removed for letter mail, and I put some percentages here. So they're dropping by 9% and 17%, and then there is one category that remained unchanged, and that's the differential from NBC to SDF. So we're hoping, the good news is that as transportation prices have gone up, some of those pass-throughs can kind of change. So last year, letter rates were at 116% for NBC, 122% for SDF. So by them taking about 10% again, we think that hopefully this will be the last year of the reduction in that discount. So this shows the same information, just again on the nonprofit letters, very similar, same percentages as far as the dropship discount. Now this slide looks at dropship discounts for marketing mail flats. So what's interesting with the marketing mail flats, and you'll see on the analysis below, that some of the dropship discounts for flats were raised. And what that means is instead of losing discounts, postage discounts, you actually gain postage discounts in some categories. And then in others, they were raised. So what the Postal Service is doing here is, as I mentioned before, for non-carrier route flats, those rates were raised an additional 2%. So I think they were trying to help that category of mail by giving back some level of discount. Whereas carrier route, those prices went up lower than CPI, so some of those discounts were lost. And while sometimes these rates don't always make sense, it's because they have to work within the cap authority. So it's almost like, shifting budgets from one end of the spectrum to the other just to make sure you're totaling out to where you need to be. Periodical rate increase. So periodicals did go up 1.9%, again, the CPI cap. What was interesting with periodicals is there were no change to the pound prices, but that the stack prices went up 12% and the pallet and bundle rates went up 5%. And that goes to that last bullet point where smaller circulation publications may see above average increases due to less pre-sorting and lighter piece weights. So the Postal Service is trying to signal via their rates that they want more cooperative services, right? They want better processed and pre-sorted mail. So that's why the sack and pallet and bundle prices have gone up. And again, it just signals to mailers to look at more things like co-mail. Package services, so this also went up 1.9%. Nothing really outstanding or crazy with package services. This rate category stayed fairly vanilla.
Great, thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
With that, with some of the increases, it's nice to know that there's some opportunities to take advantage of some promotions that the USPS is offering in 2020. And with that, I'll turn it over to Eric, and Eric will talk a little bit more about each of the 6 campaigns that are happening during the 2020 fiscal calendar year.
That sounds good. Well, thanks. First, I'd like to thank you, Eric, for inviting me back for the second webinar, and I appreciate all your time and your customers' time. So first of all, I just want to talk about the proposed 2020 mailing calendar promotions, and this is basically the same layout as we had last year. And the categories are for first-class mail, we have earned value, which involves business reply and courtesy reply, and the personalized color trans promotional. Now, for both first class and marketing mail, we have emerging and advanced technology and the new informed delivery campaign. And then lastly, the marketing mail, which is the tactile and sensory, and the mobile shopping, which has been around for a while and one of our more popular promotions. So if you want to go to the next slide. Okay, first I want to talk about the tactile, sensory, and interactive mail piece promotion, which encourages mailers to enhance customer engagement with the mail through advanced print innovations in paper and stock, substrates, inks, interactive elements, and finishing techniques. Now, the registration period is December 15th through July 31st, and the promotional period is February 1st through the end of July. Now, this is going to be for regular and nonprofit marketing mail, letters and flats that meet the promotional requirements. And there's a 2% postage discount at the time of mailing. The next slide, please. There we go. Okay, and some of the categories in this promotion are specialty inks, and these inks will have different interaction with the elements. So first of all, you'll have one that can create a circuit for electronic devices. There's one that is heat sensitive that will change, and there's another one that is light sensitive. There's the one that when you view it from different angles, it will change the view. And if you're under pressure, it'll change the appearance of the mail piece as well. And then lastly, if it has water or liquids that are exposed to it, then it will change as well, which I find pretty cool. The second category is specialty paper. So paper that's infused with scent and sound, so paper that incorporates some type of sound chip and speakers. And then lastly is taste, where paper incorporates edible components. Well, and this one I can't quite get my head around, because I can just imagine somebody opening their mailbox and licking their mail piece. So I think you as the marketers and innovators will have to come up with something a little more unique than that, I hope. And then lastly, interactive elements. So three-dimensional pop-ups and infinity folding is part of that third category. So the next category, emerging and advanced technology promotion. So in this promotion, the post office encourages mailers to incorporate emerging technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, NFC chips, video to print, and this new one is addressable TV, and lastly, digital assistants. And I'll talk about those on the next slide. I thought they were kind of unique. The registration period is from January 15th through the end of August, and the promotional period, March 1st through the end of August. So in this, the different promotional categories here, one of the new ones is mixed reality, which combines augmented and virtual reality on the same mail piece, which I found interesting. Then we have regular virtual reality. And then another new one is the addressable TV, which actually interacts with like a Hulu or a Netflix type of TV, what's the word for that? Kind of a flow, I can't get the word, but it's basically interacts with Hulu, and they have the ability to understand what you're watching on TV, and then target mail pieces that would you'd find those interesting just from your TV behavior. The next one is digital to direct, which is basically as you are browsing online, mail pieces that you interact with on, let's say, banner ads will be produced and then target you with that information hard copy. Next, we have near-field communication chips that are embedded in mail pieces that interact with mobile devices. We have Bluetooth, low energy, and beacon technology, which is very similar to NFC, just a different type of technology. And then we have enhanced augmented reality, which is a robust version of augmented reality, and video and print. Now, this one I find kind of interesting because a couple of years ago, they had Ford had won they won an award at the MPF for the mail piece they had sent out to 25,000 people on a list that were previous Continental owners. So this was it was basically reintroducing the Continental, and they sent out 25,000 pieces, and they got 7,000 pre-orders for the new Continental, which I found to be a pretty good result. And then lastly, integrating with digital assistants. So this one is where a mail piece, when you receive it in the mailbox, would then interact with like a smart speaker like Alexa or Home Google, which I find kind of interesting as well. Go to the next slide. Okay, now the earned value reply, there's a couple of things I'd like to talk to you about this one. This is going to be for customers that have business reply, courtesy reply, or use share mail in their outbound mail piece that will be returned back to them with some kind of response. So eligible mail, business reply, courtesy reply, and share mail. And the credit amounts are going to differ. If you are a new participant and did not participate in calendar year 2019 promotion, you'll get a 2-cent credit for each piece that comes back. Now, if you did participate in 2019 for the earned value, you have to meet a threshold of 93% before you get a credit back. And if you get between 93 and 100%, you'll get 2 cents per piece back to your permit account. And if you exceed 100%, you'll actually get a 4-cent credit back to your account. Now, the important thing with this to remember is you have to sign up before the promotion starts. So from February 16th through end of March, you have to sign up, and then April 1st is when you can participate, but you can sign up after that. So the next one is personalized and color trans promotional, and that's for first class mailers that send bills and statements and then incorporate a offer in color within the statement. And that's between May 15th and the end of December is when you register, and the promotion is July 1st through the end of December. And that's for first class pre-sort and automated letters, bills and statements only. And there's a 2% discount on that. And the first time participants they only have to meet the color requirements, not the personalization part of it. The next one, our more popular one, is mobile shopping promotion. And that encourages mailers to integrate direct mail pieces with mobile technologies to facilitate a convenient online shopping experience for consumers during the holiday season. So the eligible mail pieces are marketing mail letters and flats and nonprofit marketing mail letters and flats. There's a 2% discount off the mailing statement, and the registration June 15th through the end of December, with the promotion going from August 1st through the end of December. Now the rest of this is kind of an eye chart, so I'm just going to kind of pick out the highlights. The mailing requirements is it has to be some type of technology such as a QR code or some data mart. There you go. Data mart tag, smart tag, watermark, or near field communication chip. And with that, they also have to be driven to a mobile optimized website for purchasing the item. And lastly, it also has to be tangible, which isn't on here, such as a hat or a jacket that can be shipped through the mail. Now, there's some nuances to that, where if you're a nonprofit looking for a donation, you can send out a mail piece and then they go to your website and donate, but there has to be a follow-up thank you mail piece in order to qualify. And that was from the last mobile shopping, and I'm assuming they're going to continue it this coming year. And then our last one is informed delivery promotion, which I encourage everybody to really look at because it basically covers almost all the mail classes and mail pieces. There's only a couple exceptions that are saturation mailing, EDDM, or destination delivery unit mail that doesn't go through any of our scanning equipment. So the key to this is that you would do an informed delivery campaign at the time of mailing, and also sign up for the incentive, or have Midstates sign up for the incentive for you, and they can auto enroll you to qualify for that 2% discount. And then lastly, I'd just like to point out the number of informed delivery participants has grown to over 20 million registered users, over 16 million registered households, and over 15 million people that have opted to have the email sent to them on a mobile device instead of going to the dashboard. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric. So there are some opportunities depending on what type of mail piece or what type of clientele that you're dealing with or focusing on to take advantage of some promotions next year as well. And with that, we're gonna close. We'll talk a little bit about co-services and I'll talk and also include Michelle in some of the dialogue to talk a little bit more about what do the co's actually mean, what does it entail, what is co-mail, commingle, co-transportation or consolidation, and how does it work, and how can you take advantage of these types of programs to help reduce your postage and distribution expense. You know, right now when you're dealing with any type of a print project, if you're mailing today, in some instances, 50 to 60% of your costs are on the backside of the equation, and so it's really important that you understand what opportunities are available and how they actually fit into the puzzle. So co-services is basically consolidation, in which we've been doing that for many years here, and it's just basically you're trying to bypass some of the distribution network that Michelle talked about earlier today. And instead of the mail flowing from our origin facility here through the mail stream, we actually take and bypass and try to take it to a consolidation site where you're mailing, if let's say it qualifies to go to Jacksonville, Florida, rather than moving it through all the channels from an origin perspective, we'll take it to a consolidation site where it's loaded onto a trailer full of mail going directly to Jacksonville. So now you've got some shared expense there, so you're not incurring all the cost to go to Jacksonville. So that's kind of how consolidation works. All the mail is prepared at the print facility, verified and accepted here on site. Commingle is a little bit different. You're taking your mailing there, and it's specifically set up for letter size mailings, put in pre-sort order into bins rather than into trays, and those completed inkjetted finished pieces are taken to a Commingle facility, a third-party commingler, who then takes your mail file and mixes it or commingles it together with other mailings to obtain the lowest possible and get the lowest discounts available. And co-mail is similar in nature to commingle, but deals more on the flat size mail pieces. The difference is that the inkjetting is not done at our facility. The third party will take the mailing data and incorporate it all into one big mail stream, and we'll look at a little bit different how that works, and it's a little bit different later on the slides here. So this is kind of how it works, and if we're the print mail facility here at Midstates, you know, it would go from here at our origin post office to Dakota Central to Des Moines and then to the rest of the country. What we try to do is, and I'll let Michelle talk a little bit more about this, is we'll take the mail into a third-party facility such as ALG, and they'll work their network to provide end delivery. So Michelle, if you want to explain a little bit more how you're involved here.
Sure. So one of the benefits of mail consolidation is a lot of mailings, unless they're, I would say, 50 million plus pieces, it's very difficult to get a full truckload to a specific SDF or NDC. So that's where we come into play. So we can provide lower costs, and we build full truckloads. So we have two warehouses, one in New Jersey and one in Illinois, and we accept inbound dropship pallets from all of our customers. And what we do is then we sort through and we put all of the pallets that are going to SDF San Francisco together on a truck that we can outbound. And we outbound and hit every SDF 3 to 4 times a week and every NDC sometimes 5 to 6 times a week, just based on volume. So that helps drive that transportation cost down, but yet the mail can still continue to move. We don't have mail sitting at our facility for a week waiting for additional volume. In some cases, with the volume that we have, a truck can come in on one side of the building and go out within hours to the next side of the building on a truck that has been waiting to kind of fill up to a specific entry point.
So I think the biggest thing to add to that is that, you know, what we try to do is what the customer's expectations are, and it might be set up that, you know, time is of the essence and we need to go directly to a an SCF or a DDU to get that quicker and faster in home, which definitely can be done. So to go right from a mail facility and bypass everything to the final delivery point. But in some instances, it's from a cost perspective, you can lower your costs by using a mail consolidator. This slide is kind of adds to what Michelle was talking about earlier, as far as when you look at Commingle or co-mail, all you're really trying to do is move the cost of your each piece through these slides. So basically, you know, from a letter, you know, if you're going from a mixed ADC automated to carrier route, you're just trying to move from the right-hand side of the columns to the left-hand side, and then further down and get a destination NDC or destination sectional center facility discount. And the same works with flats. So as you can see, if you go with a mixed ADC non-auto to a carrier route DDU, the savings is pretty significant. It's just a matter of having enough volume to drive it down into those type of discounts. And you can save hundreds or thousands of dollars a year by doing some of these different things. And I think it's important to understand that we're talking about slicing pennies to save hundreds of dollars here. So if you mail once a month or twice a month or weekly, you can really see some enhanced savings by taking advantage of some of the co-services. As we talked about, consolidation or drop ship is just, we prepare everything here, we take it to a third party to build direct loads to these NDCs and SCFs. So commingling, as we discussed a little bit earlier, it's just basically taking your mail piece, putting it into through a sorting facility and merging multiple pieces, multiple titles into one final tray that will provide deeper discounts and deeper penetration into NDC, SCF, or DDU destinations. So normally we would sort by trays into destination order. We sort them and prepare them into bins. And bin one might be for, let's say, Rhode Island, and you're mailing rather than going through all the facilities will then hopefully be sorted down into an SCF that we could go direct to Providence. And so that's basically how it works. This is the type of equipment very similar to what the post office uses, but it takes it, it's sorted down, and now you've got, you can see in the middle picture, different mail pieces going into one tray for final destination delivery. And Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about your Commingle operation?
Yeah, so those are really nice machines, Eric. So we have 6 machines at our facility in Illinois. Each machine has 256 bins, and you can kind of see those bins are the ones kind of stacked up. And what a bin is a 5-digit zip code. So we can sort mail down to the 5-digit zip code, and like Eric had mentioned, very similar to the Postal Services machines. Books come in already imaged with the address and the barcode, and the machines are really just big sorting machines. They're reading that barcode and they're putting them to the correct 5-digit zip code bin. So we run roughly anywhere from 12 to 15 million pieces of Commingle a week. And as I mentioned with the rate change, we always see some of that volume continue to go up because, again, people are trying to mitigate any rate increase with some of these code services.
Thanks, Michelle. Talk briefly about co-mailing. This is, if you have 3 separate titles, this is what it looks like today. You would mail each one individually and hope to somehow obtain either a discount and bypass them and get some penetration. But what happens in a co-mail operation is those 3 titles are then merged together and sorted, very similar to Commingle, but the actual processing and making of the bundles occurs at the co-mail facility, where the inkjetting occurs there to get deeper discounts. And Michelle, if you want to talk a little bit about how the operation works and what could a customer maybe expect to see as far as savings in co-mail?
So savings in co-mail does vary based on marketing mail, periodical, size of the title, and also size of the pool. So we always say that the pool volume is a good indicator of savings, but then within that pool volume, the type of mailing that it is can see some variance. So we've seen anywhere from 10% of savings up into 50 or 60% of savings. And when I say 50 or 60%, that typically is on the smaller volume, right? So we have a 5,000 pocket minimum for our machine. And the reason for that, and we try and limit smaller pockets as well, even from 5 to 15,000, just because we have 36 pocket machines. And if you fill up, if every pocket on our co-mailer only has 10,000 pieces, you're really not gaining that savings, right? You want to build those pools of 2, 3+ million pieces. So you need some large volume to help offset the small volume. So when I say 50% of savings, that's typically, if you have a 10,000 piece mailing in a very large pool of 3 million pieces, that's where you can see some significant percentage of savings. But a good number, to ballpark is, I could say 25 to 30% is a good average.
I think just to piggyback with what Michelle's saying is, from what we've seen as far as co-mail is, you'll get into a comfort zone. I always kind of tell people, if you co-mail 10 times, you're going to see a pretty similar average result 7 out of 10 times. One time you're going to get one that you're going to be disappointed in, and then you'll have a couple that exceed your expectations. So, like you said, it becomes very, very stable once you get used and are comfortable with using the co-mail as an option to reduce your postage expense.
Good point.
So these are kind of the specs for co-mail, and I'll let Michelle talk a little bit about this, because these are the specs that we know will run within the equipment pretty easily. We have had situations, and at times where we might be a little bit maybe thicker or thin, or the piece is a little bit wider, and Michelle's team have accommodated some of those changes. But this is the size, so if you have a flat size piece and falls within the specs, you're probably going to be eligible for co-mail. And do you want to add something, Michelle?
Yeah, Eric, that's a really good point. So one of the benefits that we have working with Midstates and being kind of an independent co-mailer is we can push the boundaries of the machine. So what's up here, those are the machine specifications. But we have a great crew. We have great operators that know what they can push the machine to do, what we can run. So we always tell Eric, if there's something outside of the specification, send us an email, send us some samples. If we can get it to run, and our team is phenomenal at getting things to run, then we're happy to take it. We want to be as inclusive of different sizes as we can, because as we know, everybody has different marketing plans and things like that. So we try and take as much as we can.
This is just, again, some pictures of what a co-mail line looks like. Each one has a pocket that gets fed, and then it's mixed or co-mailed together into one final being mail pre-sort file. So, and finally, I just want to talk a little bit about the postal processing. Some questions that customers have asked us, prospects have asked us, and we have a detached mail unit here at Midstates. And basically, what that means is we have a postal employee on site daily to accept and verify all of our mailings that we send out on a daily basis. We have actually the USPS trailer for this area originates on our dock and then goes to the facility here in town and then to the rest of the country. So we also are seamless acceptance approved and have been for, Tracy, 2 years almost. So I think it's important to know that if you're an existing customer or somebody on the call today that is looking to, how do we fit in? We have graduated. We don't move the mail by Stagecoach anymore, and we do have paved roads. So we do use technology, and I think it's important for us to let our customers know that, you know, this will probably be a requirement. Michelle, if you can confirm that, I think probably next year that people start moving into seamless acceptance because it's all electronically done. So we transmit files from here to ALG, and ALG uses that to for processing and moving stuff within the post office as well.
Yeah, the Postal Service is putting together a Federal Register notice to get input to put out some dates that mailers move fully to seamless acceptance, I believe, 2021. You know, and again, they try and work with folks, but yes, Eric, you're right. That is the way they're trying to move, more automated, based on all the systems that they have now with Postal One and all of the barcodes.
So I guess in conclusion, that, you know, what used to be you as a customer or a print project manager, the old, you know, give me your specs, what kind of paper are you on, has changed a little bit, and you need to at least understand or know how the numbers all fit together. Because if you had a simple, give me your specs and I'll put a price together for you, it's now changed because there's some things within the logistics side, the postage side, and freight side that you need to understand to really make a good decision on whether what the printer's bringing to the table, because you can save a lot of money just on the postage side, but you also have to look at how does that fit into the equation as far as costs associated with to achieve that postage discount. So if at any time you have a question on that, feel free to email myself or reach out to your sales rep. We'd be glad to do some type of an analysis for you based on your current print projects. So with that, we'll open it up to some questions, and I see we do have one, and Michelle, I'm going to probably defer it your way, and it has to do with 2020 rates for periodicals. From as far as ride-along rates, will they increase next year?
And I happened to see that, and while I haven't looked specifically at ride-along rates, I pulled up the 2020 rate filing, which can be found on Postal Pro. And I'm sure, Eric, we can send out the link if anybody is interested. So the ride-along rate for 2020 is planned to be 17.9 cents a piece. I would have to pull up the current rate off the top of my head. I don't remember if that is higher or lower, but I will quick see if I can pull it up here.
And then, like I said, we'll send out the Postal Pro, and I'll send out to the attendees today just the actual rate case and what it looks like. If you have questions, you can read, you know, if you want to sit in a nice recliner with a nice blanket and a cup of coffee, it's a good reading to read through. But we'll look that up and get an answer to that question as well. With that, I don't see that we have any other questions at this time. We'll get a response out to that, and we'll send a link to the rate increase.
Oh, and I have an answer. So it is going up. So current ride-along price for 2019 is 17.8 cents a piece. So it is going up slightly to 17.9 cents a piece.
It looks like there's a follow-up question. Just periodicals itself, what is the possible increase? And I think the slide
1.9. Yeah. Yep. So the average is 1.9. There are some variations of some higher rates from our analysis based on some smaller mailings, smaller quantity mailings, but the average will be 1.9%.
Okay, it looks like that appears to be it for questions right now. Like I said, feel free to send me an email if you have a question after the presentation or tomorrow. We'll try to have this posted on our website by the end of this week. So if you have any questions you want to refer back to it, we'll have it posted. And then we've already started discussions on our next webinar, and it has to deal with how do we talk a little bit more about what can you do from a project standpoint to offset some of this cost. Maybe it's different paperweights, maybe it's a different piece size. You know, what can we do to help reduce some of the costs associated with the postage increases in 2020. So that's kind of the next webinar that we're going to try to put together to talk a little bit more about paper size, paperweight, size of pieces, and maybe it's a transition from a current flat size piece to a letter size piece, and what's entailed and what do you need to be thinking about. Yep, and there was a question about the slides. Yep, we can send the slides out to everyone's email as well. We'll do that after the presentation today. So with that, I thank Michelle and Eric for participation again today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a great rest of your day. You bet. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Eric.
Bye.
Bye-bye.